NFL in London is back. Wade and Ryan here, everyone. Wildcard, and it's been wild week, man. It's been a
It's
wild
actually
week of.
super wild card weekend. I don't know if you
It
know
is
that. They
super
call
wild.
it that. I don't like it.
They
It's
call it
like how
that?
they tried to make like the tournament a thing where they talk about like you got to get into the tournament. It's like that's not a thing.
Yeah.
You cannot make it a thing. And nobody I know has ever said, "You just got to get in the tournament, man." So
No one's ever said that. I mean, I
no
think
one's
the
ever
other
said
thing
that.
too, when you look at it too, is that all the games they're all over the place again. Like it's Prime, it's Peacock over in North America. I mean,
Yeah.
BBC and all
I
those
mean,
guys are doing it. It's just a headache. But let's talk about some of the coaches because a lot of people are out of work. Harbaugh, McDaniels, Stefanski, lots of other junior coaches. Although apparently Harbaugh, even after Trump tweeted, apparently he's going to be running Venezuela. So I don't even know if he'll be doing anything for the
they need
NFL.
it. They need it. Just hopefully they don't have a two-score lead in the fourth quarter. Venezuela,
Well, you hope
because
not,
they
and
might
they
lose the
don't call
country.
Tyler Loop in. I think Derrick Henry's actually going to run the drilling. It
Yeah.
goes down hard. So, I mean, it's hard because they're talking what Harbaugh wants. He wants like 20 million. He wants like all these things. But there's a lot of teams. I think the Giants will be interested. Stefanski. I mean, look, the guy went from coach of the year to out of a job, and it's like I don't know. It's like trying to mold a piece of dog shit into a football Cleveland because there's just such bad things going
Yeah,
on.
it was funny because like a week before this happened, like a week ago, there was not much talk that it was always like, who are you gonna like? There's no point in firing your coach because there's not many candidates. There was no Ben Johnsons, there were no these
Hmm.
guys, and all of a sudden, Harbaugh falls on the market, and I think like the fact that McDaniel just got fired like days later means that they were
Hmm.
going to keep him. Harbaugh came on the market. Now I think that's a big sign that, to me, that Harbaugh's looking like he could be in Miami. Which I mean, I don't think that's a great job, to be honest with you. It's like, oh, do you want to be in the
No.
division with Drake May and Josh Allen? It's like that does not sound fun. Like to me, if I were him, I'd go to the Giants or something like that. Get some guys. He's the kind of guy who can bring like stability to a franchise that, after your team has just been dog shit forever. Like, but no one's going to want to go to Cleveland, and no one's going to want to go to the Jets. And that's what's going to be the funny thing. It's like, do they have to like overpay so much, like in Deshaun Watson, to get a coach? Because people are going to be like, absolutely not. I'm not. I'm not going to the Jets. I'm not going to the Browns. So what do they do? Again, there's a lot of. I think the fact that even like what if Tomlin goes one and done, does he say he's gone? I think there's going to be a lot of people not rushing to get hired, and they're just going to kind of sit and see where the chips fall and see who goes for what. I think there's going to be a lot of wheeling and dealing, and
I think also too with these guys, they know that there's a toxicity rot that comes that say you go to a team, but you know that the owner's a douche flute. You know that the general manager's a fuckwad. So it's like whatever I do, he's
well,
been in
they're
the
all
league
that.
what was it, 18 years. So you're gonna look at it and go, okay, well, you look at some of the changes. Obviously, Indianapolis, and you got new owners and things coming in. But do you go, well, no matter what I do, it's not going to make a damn difference because I still have to deal with asshole number one.
Yeah, well, I know it's a wild. It doesn't feel like again even. It's not like Harbaugh's coming off some like again. Yeah, he's been consistently great. He's had Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
He won this, but it's kind of like Tomlin. He's riding that past success, and the last couple of years it's just been a bit of a disaster. And I don't think anyone. And it kind of feels that way in Buffalo with Sean McDermott. If they go one and out and they lose to
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville, are those same questions going to be? It's like, all right, dude, like, what are we doing here? The same thing keeps happening. And it looked like with the Harbaugh that Lamar pushed him out. It looked like Lamar just kind of behind the scenes
Yeah.
is just like, sorry. Clearly they were not on the same page. Clearly the fact that Lamar is just, I think he just kind of like played it to get rid of him but who's this guy going to be? Like, I think that job to me is the best job in football. You get Lamar Jackson, you
Yeah.
get a solid defense, and again, who's even going to take it? Others, Harbaugh's the candidate. Mike McDaniel's not going to get it. Like
Mike McDaniels, maybe?
not really. Like you could go Robert Sala. Like that's the thing. Like they got rid of Harbaugh, but are you really confident who you're going to replace him with is going to be much better? And I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if there's that candidate. It's just like, to me, I just feel like it's just 1 year too early. I think next year maybe there's better candidates, but I'm fascinated to
Mm-hmm.
see like who goes where.
Well, and also coach like the colleges will be going nuts too, as we've seen with Belichick going. That if someone's like, you know what, I'll give you X million to come in and run this college program, come run Alabama, come run this, come run somewhere. There's big money there. It's a lot less pressure. And then I think the other interesting thing too is that you have a lot of the teams now looking at ex quarterbacks to help them finesse the organization. Whether it's calling in Troy Aikman or calling in Matt Ryan,
Yeah.
hey, well, you come in, you run our football operations. Is this because they want what Brady did to Vegas? I mean, obviously Vegas too. They're going to have to go all in, and it's going to be someone that Brady wants. I don't see Pete Carroll ever coming back to the game too, because old man Carroll. It's like he might go take a high school or just enjoy himself because
He's
he's been around.
In the sunset. Yeah. I think, again, the Raiders could be someone where, like, again, Mendoza looks like he's going to be the number one. The Raiders have the number one pick. Do they try and get his coach from college who kind of, there's talk of, like, teaming them up in Vegas and just said, if you want him to have the best situation, that guy turned around that Indiana French program very quickly. So, again, it's going to be fun. But I'm just fascinated to see what happens if the Bills go one and done. What happens if the Steelers get blown out by the Texans? Are people going to be like, all right, we're done? Does Tomlin just say, you know what, I'm going to take a year off and I'm going to just go and go on TV for a year and just wait and find the right spot? I think there's lots of moves to be done, and even Stefanski, which we didn't talk about. And I think like him to somewhere like the Giants, give him like Jackson Dart, him to the Raiders with the first pick, where he can actually get a quarterback that he gets from the beginning to work with, because he's always this guy's won 2 Coach of the Years with the Browns. Like that's almost impossible to do if you think about it.
Yeah, and you have that. What is it? They're saying that Jackson Dart. Someone caught him on the sideline saying we're either getting Stefanski or Harbaugh for New York. I mean, obviously, to your point, still way too early, and we don't know who's going to get dumped out. It could be that we have some games this weekend where someone's like, that you just screwed this up. We've been prepping for this and you're done. So it's too early to tell. The offseason is going to be electric, I think, because there's a lot of, obviously free agents. There's going to be a lot of moves. And just given how unpredictable this season has been, there's going to be a lot of people going, we don't want unpredictability this year. We want stability. We got to make some big moves. So exciting.
Yeah.
Some of the week 18 games, obviously we should talk about that because you wonder, had Baltimore and Loop not missed that kick, there's a lot of obviously things that led to that, but would Harbaugh still have a job? Obviously, he probably, they're not going to fire him going into the wild card.
Would Tomlin have been fired?
Exactly.
Would it have been a reverse situation? Yeah, it's absolutely possible. Week 18 was funny. It was just one of those, from the Jets who just had a historic season of a whole season without an interception.
0 interceptions, which is good if you're actually a quarterback, but if you're the defense, it's not.
I mean, it's never been done. I don't even think it's ever been done by a quarterback to go a season without throwing an interception. The fact that a whole 11 players on one side never even got like a tipped ball, like not even one that got shot up in the air on a whatever, nothing. Complete. And the worst part is, Aaron Glenn is a defensive back. This is like the worst, and it's, to me, the Jets are in such a bad spot, and that was to get lit up like that by Trubisky and the Bills' backups.
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't even the starters going out, and you looked like a high school team. Again, there's a couple cool things I thought. I thought Tyler Shuck kind of showed that this guy's got some.
Yeah.
I think everyone in kind of New Orleans who's thinking, you know what, we're going to be shit for 2 years and we're going to get Arch Manning. It's kind of like, this Shuck guy is really fun. Slings it, can run, his big plays, and I think they found their guy. It kind of gives hope to the third round picks, where a lot of times it's like if you're not a top 10 pick or a top 15 pick, you're just a bust. And even with, we've seen JJ McCarthy and stuff like that. But to see a guy like Shuck, a little late rounder, took him like half the season, and he might win Rookie of the Year in 9 games, and he was that good. And what does that say about the other rookies, to be honest?
Jackson Dart too. I mean, when you look at it, he wasn't, people are like, we'll see what happened with Dart when you've got Jameis and you got Russ, and then you put this kid in. He has this really good connection with Scatabo, he's got this real competitive edge to him. But yeah, and Shuck, and I think when you look at it, Rattler getting injured, and you sort of go, what's going to happen with Rattler? You know,
Well, I don't think
what?
Rattler is even in their plans anymore. I think he's the
No,
backup. I think you go in the season, he has that connection with Olave. Get yourself a running back, get yourself another weapon. The defense looked feisty. And you know what? I was actually surprised, even with the coach. I don't think a lot of people thought, what's his name?
Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore. I don't think a lot of people didn't think much of him. I didn't think much of him, that he was going to be coming from Dallas in that offense. It kind of just felt like they were just like, oh, it's good. And it worked. They ran off 5 straight wins. They were competitive in almost every single game.
Second half of the season,
we made fun of them. We made fun of them a lot because I didn't think they were even going to be even competitive. So I tip my hat to the Saints this year as my little surprise team of the year. They were really fun. I hope Shuck wasn't just this 8-game wonder. I hope he's got the stuff.
Well, when you look at that division too, and we just saw how it all played out, where it's like, okay, Tampa Bay beats Carolina. As long as New Orleans wins, they're through.
Yeah.
And then when what's his name is Kirk Cousins is like, go and win the division to Baker, and then takes him out of the division. It was tough. It was one of those things that I think Atlanta, looking back on, Jesus, had we just won one or two more games, we could have had
just
this.
Just one more game.
Yeah.
They finished tied. They were eliminated from the playoffs weeks ago, and they ended up tied for first, and it's still out. It was just wild. What a great season. Great season.
Absolutely wild season. Well, let's get into it because we've got games on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Take off the weekend, folks. You got nothing going on. We start out with which probably the most lopsided game, which is the Rams, who are 12-5, 10.5-point favorites going into Carolina. Carolina 8-9, a losing record. Only team with a losing record. 46.5 is the over/under. Obviously, in Week 14, Carolina beat the Rams 31-28. Matt Stafford had 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. They weren't always his fault. There were some tips and drops, and Bryce Young had 3 touchdowns in this one. Devontae Adams will be back in this game. How do you like this one? I mean, it seems like the Rams sort of just looked over them like last time. But this time now, you're going into Carolina. You're the visitor. How do you like them going into this Carolina team where Carolina just sort of limped into the playoffs?
I mean, it's striking because it's funny because Carolina beat the Rams a few weeks ago, and it was one of that
Week
big
14,
upset game where you just couldn't believe it even happened. But to me, it's just backing into the playoffs this way is not a confidence boost. The fact that you have a home game is great, but to me, the biggest concern is that as good as the Panthers' run game was a couple of weeks ago, even half a season ago, it's really fallen off a cliff. Rico Dowdle has not been able to do anything. Chuba Hubbard, they're unable to find when they were at their best and pulling off games. Rico Dowdle ran for 200 yards, and they were like, "What is happening?" Once that running game went, Bryce Young's game kind of fell off. He's not able to. If he can't get that running game going, they're not able to kind of open it up. They really only have Ted McMillan is the only kind of weapon on their team in the passing game. They have Coker, and a couple other guys, but to me, it's just you need telling me that Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, up against Bryce Young and Ted McMillan, a rookie, and Chuba Hubbard. It's no, thank you, no, thank you. I just think I think Stafford, he wants to maybe potentially retire. Who knows? If he wins MVP, wins the Super Bowl, what better way to go out on top, especially, with his back and everything like that. So I think, to me, the Rams are just so dominant. And I think the fact that they're the 5th seed, I think is just kind of the fact that, 10.5 is just a lot, though. To me, I think 10.5 is just asking. I think you can see there's potential backdoor covers. There's just all these things. To me, I'm worried that if Bryce Young has to go in a shootout, Bryce Young's barely averaged 200 yards a game, right? And I think there's even part of Panthers fans that are kind of worried, if Bryce Young wins, you might have to pay him Tua money, and then you're like, uh-oh, what have we done, right?
Yeah.
So that's my first part. We could stretch it, but my first part is just I think it's a tough spot for the Panthers, and I just don't think any Panthers fan is just it's hilarious that we won the division at 8-9, but I don't see any way that they can keep this ride going.
I'm with you on this one. It's just, as you say, you got Ted McMillan who might get 100 yards. He's your only guy.
Yeah.
So who else are you getting the ball to?
It's a good prop bet.
Great. It's great prop bet. And, they did show that they could score, but it seemed like in that last game when they played week 14, it was like the Rams were like, oh, crap. Oh, we're losing. It was like they were thinking ahead. They were thinking about the division. They were thinking Seattle. They were thinking San Fran. They weren't thinking Carolina. This time, all eyes on Carolina. And obviously, they saw the way that, Baker Mayfield was able to beat them last week, and Carolina was playing hard last week. They were trying to get the win, and they couldn't even beat it. And so this is different than the Bucks. This is the Rams coming into town. I think having Devontae Adams is going to be big. That gives Stafford that extra target. Devontae's been playing well, and now he's healthy coming into this. How are you going to cover all these guys? How are you going to cover Puka and Devontae? And as well, whatever mumbo jumbo name, some of these names I've never even heard of on the Rams. You're like, who's that guy? I've never heard this name before. But Stafford feeds him the ball.
Well, yeah, there's Cody Parkinson. Yeah. The fact that Blake Corum's kind of been a guy who's kind of really come on in the last. Kyron Williams, they got that two-headed monster.
Yeah.
Like a way better two-headed monster than Carolina has. Yeah, I'm totally with you. And I think like they do have J.C. Horn, who I think can cover Puka Nacua, but Puka's been so dominant that it doesn't really matter if you can cover him. I just think the Rams are just on another confidence level that I think the Panthers are happy to be in there. It's just like, this is kind of a fun season. Never thought this was going to happen. And I think the last time that a team with like a 10-point under a 10-point spread won a game, I think was Seattle, when Marshawn Lynch had that kind of crazy game against the Saints, where he like grabbed his nuts while he was diving into the end zone, and just had that wild 36 game against the Saints, I believe it was. I think to me, I'm going 30-21. I think that to me, the Rams just have too much firepower. I think they have a decent defense. Jared Verse is going to make life hell for Bryce. This is also Bryce's first playoff game. The nerves are going to be there, and it could get ugly quick, but I could see the Carolina coming out to maybe like they score on the first drive and people are like, oh, this could be a game, and then it's 28-7 at half. So I'm gonna go 30-21. I think they're gonna cover, but just
no, I've got it 31-21. Same thing. 10.5 is just a lot, but I've got it at 10. I just can't go that extra half point. It just seems too much. Again, it's going to be the Rams just foot on throat, moving the ball, shaking it around, and you're just going to see a dizzying effect for the Panthers. They're not going to be able to keep up. They sort of know, and this isn't their division, which is tough as shit. Seattle and San Fran are no joke when it comes to, they know eventually they're going to have to play one of these two teams, but Carolina is just going to be a tiny road bump in the way. Both you and I agree it's a 10-point game easily in this one. Yeah, bye-bye Carolina. Let's move on. Saturday night. Baby. Now, I don't know how many people in England will be staying up. I will be staying up. Green Bay, 9-7-1.
I'll be watching.
Heading into Chicago, 11-6. Madunze's back. We've got a lot of other injured players back. There's some of the Packers are back after concussion, but the Bears we got Packers actually favored by 1 in this one, 43.5 over under. How do you like my Bears at home? Bear down.
Before I go, there's a couple things I'm concerned about with the Bears. I didn't like how they looked last week. I thought that they kind of came out and played a pointless game and didn't look great. And I didn't know if you were going to go out there and not show your stuff, why not just play Tyson Bagent? And the fact that Philly wasn't really playing their guys and everything, they should have been on that. I think if you want to get a little bit of that momentum going into that, it didn't impress me. I also looked this up, and apparently this is only the second time the Bears and Packers have ever played in the playoffs, I believe.
We're 1-1. Yeah, it's the third time. We're tied at 1.
This will be the third time, which I think is insane considering all the years and all the fun things. There's a couple things I loved is the whole kind of Ben Johnson, Matt LaFleur storyline of the fact that they split the series 1-1. And in Ben Johnson's opening press conference, he said, I want to beat Matt LaFleur 2 times a year. I enjoyed that because he did it, I guess, with Detroit or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think Matt LaFleur, I think this is just kind of one of those games. I think this is going to be such a fascinating back and forth game. You are not going to like who I picked to win, unfortunately.
Of course, I know you're going to go with the shitheads.
I am going to go with the cheeseheads for a couple of reasons.
Shitheads, I said, not cheeseheads.
I did not like that Caleb Williams wore the cheese grater hat. Did not like that. I
Okay.
think that sort of stuff comes back to bite you. That is locker room material in the playoffs. They remember that. I also think that the Packers are not happy that the Bears knocked out or Jordan Love, which I think they
Yeah.
believe was a bit of a cheap shot. I think this game is going to be chippy. I think there's going to be
Yeah.
personal fouls, ugly downfield penalties, really controversial things where the crowd's going nuts and it's just going to get angry. It's going to boil up. I'm going with a Packer and a Bears fan together, so I'm going to be in the middle blocking them both from probably murdering each other during the game because I'm
Good.
going to stay up and watch it. I just think with all that going on, I think the Bears to me are just this fun team that just aren't there yet. I think the Packers are more seasoned. I think Jordan Love's won playoff games. I think Caleb hasn't done enough to me to think that he can win a playoff game. I think he's had a great season. I think but to me, he doesn't have. I still think the jitters are going to get there. And Caleb, when he holds on to the ball, he makes mistakes, and I think he's going to make a critical mistake at a bad time. He had that overtime win at the end of the last game, and it was amazing. You needed Dobbs to just watch the ball like a okay, whatever's going past him, tumbleweed in a western, just watching it go right past him. I just think the Packers are the better team. I think the Bears are feeling themselves a bit too much, and I think that the Packers are going to win this. I think it's going to be close, as close as it's going. I'm going 24-21. Packers win.
Now, I'll start off with I agree with you last week. We did not look good, and there became the motivation, and it didn't look like everyone was playing hard. Ben Johnson even commented on afterwards, we sucked offensively. Now coming to the game. When we talk about the better team, no, I disagree. I think Chicago is the better team because Green Bay has lost a lot of guys. You've got Kraft, you've got Micah, you've got other guys out. And I think that loss, when we talk about when Jordan Love ran his head into the Bears player, giving him a concussion.
I'm not saying I'm saying
it's total ice, man. This is a total ice scenario. It all depends on the perspective you saw it from. He hit his head into the bear. So he should have been shot in the face 3 times. I really think that Chicago, the motivation is going to be here. The weather's going to be a bit crap. As I mentioned, right now in Chicago and this area, it's like 10 degrees Celsius. It's going back down to freezing. It's going to be icy. I think the Bears fans and the fans are ready for it, this chippiness, this edge of it. And I think Ben Johnson has settled everyone down. Come on, guys, let's focus. We fucked up last week, whereas the Packers, sure, they played, they let everyone rest, let Minnesota run all over you. I think a lot of times it was Ben just sort of, okay, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. There was a lot of experimentation going on, which we all did in college. I think that this time Chicago was ready for them. I think we get the running game going. I think we got to do some trickiness first. Hit them first. We can't wait for them to score. The problem, we've done that before. Wait for the Packers, see what they do. And it's always response-based football. This time, no. We hit them with stuff. Colston Loveland has been a beast. Caleb has been holding onto the ball. Not as much. He hasn't been throwing interceptions. He's been better with the ball control. I think we get the momentum and make them screw up. I think we're in Jordan Love's head as well.
I think this, to me, I think any game you couldn't, other than the Panthers one. I don't think there's a result you could tell me that would surprise me. I'd be like, really?
Yeah.
I think every game to me is. I think this is going to be, considering some of the real shitty 7 versus 2s we've had in the past over the last couple of years. I think this is gearing up to be one of the best playoff lineups, even though it's missing the stars of Lamar, Mahomes, Burrow. I think this is going to be some of the closest football games we've ever seen in the games, coming down to the wire, bad kicks, specialty. Turnovers are going to be huge. Like every little miss extra point is going to matter. I think, I think this game will definitely come down to the wire. I think these teams are very, very close and equal. And I think if Micah Parsons played, I think I would definitely feel much more confident.
Definitely. But it would be different if Tucker Kraft was playing.
In my pick at all. I just think experience has to come into play in some of these games. And I think young quarterbacks in their first playoff games, it's hard. Not many quarterbacks in their first playoff games win games. It's it's like 30% winning percentage. I think like CJ Stroud was one of the first ones to do it in a long time. So it's not something, I think a lot of people think like, oh yeah, we'll win it. It's like, I don't know. Jordan Love is at least, he's gone on the road in Dallas and won a playoff game, so I think that matters. And I
Yeah,
think it comes into play
Dallas.
in certain specific games.
I agree with you in terms of the penalties. The officiating crew that they have, I think, is one of the tightest when it comes down to throwing penalties. And the Bears, we've had some issues in the past, but it's going to be those personal fouls, those pass interferences that are going to be real problematic. Where I think the Bears, we've got enough of our defense coming back. I agree with you. It's going to be a close game. I've got it 77-0 for Chicago. I think it'll be close. I've got it 30-28. I think it'll be a lot of points in this one. I think there's going to be a lot of points. Back and forth, chippiness. But the hometown crowd.
It's going to be wild.
You know,
It's
look,
going to be wild.
if it comes down to the last 2 minutes and we're down by 3, Caleb, baby, like that's what we do. We have been having the most fourth quarter comebacks,
Yeah,
and no
I
one
think
stops us.
Whoever
It's
has the ball
insane.
last. Yeah, whoever has the ball last.
The fact that Adunze is back, he's going to be hungry. It's not just going to be the DJ Moore show. Adding the 2 tight ends in there, you know, Komet, I think, because everyone's going to focus on Loveland. Don't forget about Komet. So I think we got a lot of targets there. They're going to be working. Bears 30, Green Bay Packers 28. Go home, cheeseheads. And I will get one of those cheese grater hats. Did you hear the story about that? That they sent the cease and desist to people who used to make the cheese hats, and they were like, we sell more of the cheese graters. F you.
So the only reason they went into the cheese graters is because the cheese heads, because of the Packers. It wouldn't even have been a thing. So the Packers caused it.
They caused it all themselves by being little bitches. Little bitches. Let's go on Sunday, 1:00 game. Like I should be watching this one too because it's 6:00 in England. Buffalo 12-5, Jacksonville 13-4. 2 Josh Allens, although one changed his name, another one had a baby. 52 points is the over-under in this one. You've got Buffalo, you know, favorites in this game, but Jacksonville playing very tough in this one. Not very big, much of a point spread in it. How do you like, obviously, Buffalo going into Jacksonville? Florida should be all right. It's going to be quite windy, though, apparently. How do you like this when Sean McDermott is 0-5 on the road in playoffs?
Well, yeah, the Bills haven't won a road playoff game in 33 years. It's been since their last road playoff game. So I think that matters. I think Sean McDermott, this is a real negative thing. I think great coaches are able to take their team into someone else's house and win. You know, Rex Ryan did it to the Patriots back in the heyday. We've seen this time and time before, and I think and I think Josh Allen is missing this from his resume, you know, that moment where you go into someone's house. The problem is, the last 2 times they played the Jaguars, they haven't even scored a touchdown. You know, I think in the playoff, like the big important games, you know, there was the playoff game years ago with Tyrod Taylor. I think they lost 9-3. There was the last time they were there was 9-6. They lost in England when I went to watch them play. They played terribly against the Jags. So the Bills have a real tough time. And going into a place like Florida, when you're a cold weather team, into a bit of that kind of Florida weather kind of worries me a bit. It's going to be a bit cooler. They said it's dropping down to like 60 degrees, whatever that is in Celsius. I have no idea. Whatever
15.
That is. So that feels like it's going to be a nice, comfortable game. Couple things that worry me. First of all, a million things that worry me about the Bills. One is that is this going to be Sean McDermott where his defense gives up 35 points again in a playoff game? Because that's kind of been the thing that's killed them over the years. It hasn't been Josh Allen. Josh Allen's one of the greatest playoff quarterbacks in NFL history. All his stats are up with Brady or better in almost every statistical category. But he doesn't have the wins because Sean McDermott's defense gives up 40 points, gives up 35. So to me, they have to be able to kind of focus and shut down this Jacksonville passing attack. I think a lot of people talk about Jacksonville. They've won 8 straight. They're the hottest team in football. They haven't really beat anyone in those last 8. There've been lots of kind of easy games, but I think the NFL has been so bad with bad teams. I think every team, it feels like it's had an easy schedule. I'm interested to see your thoughts. And before I give my score, there's a few. The fact that this is the number 1 rushing offense versus number 1 rushing defense, I think that usually always benefits the defense. I don't know why. So I think Josh Allen, the fact that he's got Dalton Kincaid back, I think is huge. I think they have to get him involved. They can't depend on any of the receivers. They stink. This has to be a James Cook, Dalton Kincaid game. And if those 2 guys can get it going, Josh Allen with his feet, I think they can get this done. Don't turn it over, because the Bills' worst enemy every single week when they've been lost games has been themselves.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Jacksonville has not allowed a 100-yard rusher this season. And James Cook, number 1 rusher, number 1 rushing defense. So this is going to be something where they do have a very good rushing duo in Jacksonville. To me, the problem is also the momentum. Jacksonville, you know, you say they haven't beat anyone, but they have been putting beatings on people lots of points. Jacoby Myers coming over has really opened it up, especially with Brian Thomas being able to have all these guys. You got Brendan Strange. He seems to be coming into his element. The thing that detracts from that is obviously the playoff experience that you talk about. Now, obviously, wins would help in playoff experience, but there is that sort of motivation, I think, now for Josh Allen, knowing Mahomes is out, knowing Burrow's out, knowing Lamar is out. He's sort of the goatiest of the goats left in the game in terms of excluding Stafford. So it's going to be very tough in terms of this. Maybe there's something with Gabe Davis coming back. It's like, oh, F you to my old team.
By the way,
there's a
40-1 anytime touchdown bet. I looked it up today. 40-1
for Gabe Davis.
I'm putting a little 2 pounds on that little revenge game, little touchdown. I like that. Little 40-1. That seems crazy.
It's one of these games, though. I think it's going to hit the under. I think that there's going to be a lot of rushing.
I do too.
And is Buffalo going to rely on Matt Milano to stop everything? Because the defense has been a bit porous. And to your point, it's going to be back and forth shootout. I can see Jacksonville taking an early lead. I can see Jacksonville having a bit of a comfort cushion at the half. And then it's up to Josh Allen. And then when you see that FU in his eyes and his ability to scramble, his ability to run, they're going to have to worry about Josh Allen's legs. And that's where he likes to be able to do it, and provided he stays healthy. I think there's been some issues, with him being a bit injured as well, whether it's his foot injury, having some time off. He does a snap last week. He's able to, rest his foot. I've got Buffalo to win it, though. I think that they are the better team. And Jacksonville, there's that momentum, but eventually, you got to get punched in the face. And then what are you going to do? And I think that they're going to get punched in the face, and Buffalo is going to punch them real hard. I've got it 26-20 for Buffalo.
I have it 26-23. Buffalo, I agree with you, what you said. I think experience matters. I think Buffalo's the most seasoned team who's just taken all the hits. They've lost every type of possible game. And I think, Liam Cohen's, it's his first time. They're going to be amped. They're going to be feeling themselves coming out. But Buffalo's been really good at second half adjustment. They're not, if they get down, they're not going to get rattled. They're not going to be a freeze up or fall apart. Buffalo's just been through this too many times. And I think that they've just learned so many lessons. And I think that they know Josh Allen feels the pressure. He knows all the talking of Lamar and blah, 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 blah. All the guys who aren't there, and that's his turn. And as long as he doesn't start just chasing things, he doesn't start just trying to be the hero and trying to just force things and making mistakes, I think they should be fine. But they have not done that this year.
It's going to be exciting early start. Let's get into our second game, the 4:00 game. Very interesting game as San Francisco is 12-5. They took a big loss to Seattle last week. Only got 3 points. Heading into a Philly team whose defense, they seem to be this sort of slumbering bear, but Philadelphia is 11-6. They're 4.5-point favorites in a 44.5-point game. They get things done. And is San Francisco going to be able to score against this defense? And, is the Philadelphia Eagles going to be able to spread this ball around? Or is it just going to be, give it to Saquon, and it's going to be the Saquon Christian McCaffrey game?
Well, the problem is there hasn't been a Saquon game all year. We're still waiting for the first one. He hasn't been able. McCaffrey's been like an MVP basically. It's as good as he's been in the last few years. The problem is, I think it's just the warm weather teams coming to the cold. I think it's a thing, and I think it matters, and I think it can affect you. And I think especially in a team like Philly who plays nasty defense, it hits you, makes you hurt. And to me, I just think they can kind of get Brock Purdy to make some mistakes. They can put the pressure on him. I don't think they're afraid of any of the kind of outside weapons. The Eagles have a really good secondary. And for me, there's just something about, like, as bad as Jalen Hurts looks in the regular season, in the playoffs, he's a different beast. Like, he just has this switch. He's had 2 of the greatest Super Bowls I've ever seen of a quarterback playing. Like, just absolute. Even the one he lost against the Chiefs, he was phenomenal in it. And to me, I just think he has that. He's just wired differently. When it's on the line and it's time to step up, I think he's just going to make it happen. I think the Niners just have too many injuries on defense, and they're not going to. Brock Purdy's going to be able to make mistakes. And I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think they're the better team. I'm going to go 27-24 Eagles.
I've also got the Eagles. I've got them getting 27 points, but I've got it 27-18 because that defense, to your point, they just seem to be like, yeah, we could show up. They just don't seem to almost really be trying. It's like, and when they do, Jesus, they're devastating. You think about that Super Bowl last year where they were just all over the place. it was kind of embarrassing, and I can see that happening now because they're going to look at the playbook. What happened last week was Seattle defense, which is playing top of the league, just shut them down. Granted, San Fran's defense played well as well. I just think this Fangio is going to play with some stuff here, and it's going to be very difficult for them. And Shanahan is not going to be able to have all the answers to this. And then it comes down to it when Purdy, you're not going to be able to hand it off to McCaffrey. If you go down by 7 and 10, what do? You're going to have to start chucking it. They just don't seem to have those deep balls. They're just going to be, Philadelphia can shut down everything. So I've got it 27-18. I think that Philadelphia gets it going, and then they're just not going to stop. And then it's going to be about who's going to make the most mistakes, and I think San Francisco will. The final game on Sunday is another AFC thriller as the 11-6 LA Chargers are heading into New England 14-3. Patriots 3.5-point favorites, 46.5 the over/under first playoff game for Drake May. And Justin Herbert was resting last week. They rested a lot of them. Chargers defense has come alive in the second half of the season, but he has just been so efficient, Drake May, in terms of getting those checkdowns, the amount of yards he's getting per play, just playing a lot of mistake-free football. Mike Vrabel has just been really turning his team around. They're at home. How do you like Chargers, who seem to always blow themselves up going into the playoffs?
Well, that's the thing. The bigger story in this, I think, in the playoffs is Justin Herbert, and he's had two stinkers. Like, he had that one where they had that huge lead and they blew it against Jacksonville. I think they were up 28-0 and they ended up losing. And then he had the last year, I think, against Houston. I think he threw four interceptions. Yeah. It's 4 interceptions, just a terrible game. So he's got that kind of that bugaboo on him where it's just like, can this guy perform in the playoffs? That he's got to shake off. The thing I think that gives him such an advantage and why I'm going to choose the Chargers, it has nothing to do with Drake May or anything. I think Jim Harbaugh gives them the advantage. I think Jim Harbaugh is just such a good coach. He's from what he's done with Miami and San Francisco, he's just everywhere the guy goes, he's been a winner. And he took this team that no one thought was going to do anything, took them to the playoffs last year when they weren't ready. Took this team this year that's lost both. It doesn't matter what happens to his teams, loses both his tackles. Doesn't matter. They're still able to kind of pull off wins. Justin Herbert's hand's broken. He's still kind of throwing it around. I just think that the fact that their tackles are out and the Patriots can't rush the passer benefits the Chargers. That plays right into their hand. They got the weapons on the outside. Justin Herbert does. When Justin Herbert and the Chargers are at their worst is when they're under siege because their tackles can't block against the Chargers, or if you have defensive ends that are going to come at you. Then he's in trouble. If he can sit there and have some time and wait for, Lab McConkey, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson get up, even Gadsden is tight end. Now they got a Mario Hampton back. I just think they got more weapons. They're the better offense, and their defense is a really good stopping the pass. They're a great secondary, and I think that really hurts the Patriots offense, which is really dependent on Drake May doing either a big deep ball or Stephon Diggs. Take away Stephon Diggs, and who do you really have? I think it all just lines up. I think the cold weather thing is the thing that worries me the most with the Chargers. And if I was going to say, I think they're built kind of to beat this Patriots team. I think it's a bad matchup. I think Harbaugh is the difference, even though I think, Vrabel's a great coach and all. But I'm going to go that I think Herbert needs this to kind of, if he goes 0-3 in the playoffs, like, now you're getting into like, dude, this is bad territory. And I think this matters to him, and they got to get it done. So I'm going to go 27-23 for the Chargers.
I'm going with the Patriots only because the aforementioned, they blow themselves up in the playoffs. And even having this week off, it just seems to me there's this bugaboo with the organization that, even when I watch them get, that loss against the Giants this year, it's like once they fall into a little trap, they seem to get stuck, and it's really hard to get their motivation going. Patriots at home, you talk about Diggs, but to me, the real guy who's going to be the difference maker here is Hunter Henry. They have that one play, it's a slant play where they just hit Hunter Henry up the middle. Boom, 15. Boom, 18. And they're just going to keep gouging him like this. When you have also the 2 running backs in New England as well, I think Omarion Hampton's going to have a good day. There's going to be a lot of running to start it. I could see it being really low scoring to begin with. And I feel that New England, though, just has a bit more of the momentum. They will play more mistake-free football. And just Herbert always seems to be injured. And I don't know. Like, you're right. I think that he will have a bit more time because they don't have a big pass rush. be a defensive battle. I just feel that they always seem to, when things can go wrong, it goes wrong for the Chargers, and I could see it happening again. So I'm going 23-21, New England beating Los Angeles. Final game, Monday Nighter, and another AFC battle.
Best for last.
Houston.
Best for last.
Best for last. Houston 3-point favorites going into Pittsburgh. Win last week, a dramatic win. Kick 39.5 is the over-under in this one. Houston is already feeling disrespected in the media. Why is everyone talking about the Pittsburgh? Why is everyone talking oldest quarterback? DK Metcalf is back, punch in the air. But Houston has come along in this second half of the season. Their defense has just been tight. They've got a crazy pass rush. Stroud's getting it back. Woody Marks is having it happen for them. Schultz, there are a lot of things coming here. Pittsburgh, you've got DK, but it seems Gainwell is off the check down. So and Rodgers, 2.6 seconds, he's getting rid of the ball. So he knows he doesn't want to get hit. And he avoided, obviously, the sack against Myles Garrett. How do you like Pittsburgh at home against a Houston team who I said feels disrespected?
Wait, I'm a romantic when it comes to
I always knew that. I've read your romantic novels, and they're wonderful.
My fan fiction. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers fan fiction, romantic fan fiction, I want to believe that he's got this legendary one last kind of run. Even if he wins a game, I so want to choose him because he actually looked really good against the Ravens. The fact that usually at the end when I was so confident he wouldn't be able to take that drive at the end where he hit Austin and got that lead, and even though they kind of sneaked in, I kind of want to choose them. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with the Steelers.
Okay.
I just think the fact that DK Metcalf is back, I think, is huge. I think not that I think he's going to do much, but at least it makes, their other receivers' life a bit easier because he might draw in, Stingley. And to me, I think Gainwell. Gainwell is just a guy who's just been Rodgers' one of his best weapons. I'm just going to be stupid. I don't really care about this game at all. I just want Rodgers to win a playoff game, even though I don't even really like Rodgers and I think he's kind of a villain. I just think it's kind of funny just to see him take this terrible team and just kind of win. Because it's usually one terrible team that wins a playoff game. And you're like, how did they win the game? Oh, my God. And, it'll be also a huge thing if I'm also kind of hoping they win and then the Chargers win and the Bills win and then the Bills play the Steelers next week. That's kind of what I'm just kind of trying to manifest into reality. I think obviously Houston's a better team. That defense is probably going to kill Rodgers, but Rodgers isn't going to get sacked that much. He'll just get rid of the ball. He'll dump it off. He'll throw it at someone's feet. You're not going to get him. He's too smart. He's seen it all. And I think the fact that DK Metcalf is back luckily didn't screw over his team, wants to probably kind of do something. He's rested, healthy. I'm going to go with a little sneaky, fun little 24-23 Steelers win at home.
Again, fan of your romance novels, but
yes.
And Rodgers has looked better. For when you talk about who are their best options going forward for next year, you have to think, why not bring the guy back? If you give him, if he had a few more targets, who knows? If you had a couple other wide receivers in there, it'd be interesting to see what he could do with them. He has looked good. He still has some snap on that ball, I'll tell you. There are some balls you're like, whoa, that's got some thunder on it. But to me, it's one of these things where Houston, it's a level of disrespect they've been given. It's that defense, and they seem to play well sometimes in that first game of the playoffs. It's the second game that they suck in. So I like Houston in this one. It's going to be tough. I think Watt being back is also a good dynamic for them, put some pressure on Stroud. But the pressure's all going to be on Rodgers, and they're going to try to figure out ways to negate Gainwell, to try to cut off all the routes that he's got. I see Houston winning this one 21-13. I don't have a lot of points in it. I think it's going to be one of those. Yeah, the over-under in this one's 39.5, and I don't think it's going to be a lot of it. It's going to be crappy on a Monday night in Pittsburgh. It's going to be rainy and wet, a bit of ice. And we saw how bad people were with the ball last week. A lot of drop balls and people not being hold on to it. So I've got Houston to win. I think that they feel that disrespect. It was the same thing with the Chargers last year. Everyone was talking about the Chargers. No one talked about Houston. I'm talking about Houston. 21-13. That's it, folks. Another podcast. This is our obviously wild card. We'll be back next week to talk about super wild card. It is super. We'll be back next week to talk about everything. Folks, enjoy the games, and we'll talk to you for the next round of the playoffs.